Around the late 1800s, a more irrational and emotional structure based on social Darwinism began to overtake the idea that people should have equality.
Listen, if you don't qualify for a mental illness under capitalism and fascism, then I don't trust you, because that means that you are fine with your dystopian reality and everything is okay. Mental illness is a political identity and always has been.
This is Plausibly Live.
I have a complete set of the 1988 Encyclopedia Britannica. It also comes with the dictionary, a few other books. It actually came with the Great Books of the Western World, which I subsequently gifted to my daughter, so she has them out in South Carolina. But I have the complete set. I have them right here. I don't have the gray ones. I have the brown ones. And I have them for a very specific reason. And that reason is very simply that they're permanent. What's written in these books is written. So let it be written, so let it be done. Now that doesn't mean things don't change, and I get science advances, additional information comes to light, but as a general rule of thumb, they're pretty good. They're pretty accurate, and accurate enough that I consult them on a fairly regular basis. My wife, and even to a lesser degree myself, keep saying to myself, I need to get rid of them. They're huge. They take up a lot of space. And everything is available online, right? But there's just something in that 1988 edition of Encyclopedia Britannica, which I bought originally as a reward to myself for being promoted to E6, that I just really love. And I love the feel of the books. I love the fact that they can't be changed. I love the fact that they are a time capsule. And every now and then, they do come in very, very handy. I was sitting at my desk, as I so often do, minding my own business, when across my Twitter feed came this tweet from Rob Reiner. Now, Rob Reiner, yes, that Rob Reiner, Meathead, the producer, director of The Princess Bride, so forth and so on, tweeted these words on July 24th. Time to stop all the hand wringing. Joe Biden is having the most successful and accomplished presidency in the last 60 years. Now, if I just stopped right there, we'd have plenty to talk about. But then he goes on. And the choice could not be more clear. Do you want democracy or fascism? Now, look, I'm smart enough to know that I'm smart enough to know this. Rob Reiner does not believe that Joe Biden is having the most successful and accomplished presidency in the last 60 years. Tweets are not delivered under oath. They don't necessarily represent the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And I firmly believe that if you cornered Rob Reiner and said to him, really, Joe Biden better than your other Democrats, I think he would be forced to admit that, that's not the case. But that said, this is what he tweeted. The part for me that caught my attention, of course, was the second half of that tweet. Do you want, the choice has never been more clear. Could not be more clear. Do you want democracy or fascism? Now, this is a phrase that always bemuses me because I hate it when people use the words fascist or Nazi or whatever. I don't even really like the term communist, but at least that has some actual connotations that are applicable. The term fascist or Nazi, let's face facts, okay? The whole Jason Aldean thing about his song being code for Trumpers, racist code for the word fascist, when a leftist uses the word fascist, that is their code for Nazi. That's what they're actually saying is Nazi. So the two words pretty much interchangeable when it comes to that. But what is fascism? Now, here's the thing. When I was in school, and I grant you that was, 40 plus years ago, was taught that fascism is an economic system which the government does not own private businesses, but they do, via a very austere regimen, control it. That's what I learned in school. But that is not the 1998 definition of fascism. I went to the Encyclopedia Britannica and I looked it up. Fascism is the ideological outlook and its extreme manifestations in Mussolini's Italian counter-revolutionary movement and his dictatorship. The Roman fasces were taken as a renewed symbol of law and order. With violence and putting down opposition characterized the regime. Fascism, any political or social ideology of the extreme right, which relies on a combination of pseudo-religious attitudes and the brutal use of force for getting and keeping power. So from the time I was in school, graduated in 1981, to the time that the 1988 dictionary came out, we dropped all the economic ideas, and it simply became about the far right, which again is questionable, given that, well, at least Nazis, it says it right in the name, National Socialists. Be that as it may, this became about the pseudo-religious attitudes and the brutal use of force for getting and keeping power. Okay, but then we come to 2023. Today, a political philosophy, movement, or regime that exalts nation and often race above the individual, and that stands for a centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader, severe economic and social regimentation, at least the economy stuff is back in there, and forcible suppression of opposition. Anybody see any difference there between 1988 and 2023? It's almost as if our interpretation of the word has been changed, isn't it? Or am I just, missing something there? I'm not sure. And then in 2023, as you heard at the top of the show, I'm told that by Tick Tock, which of course, Tick Tock is not science. I get that. Tick Tock doesn't mean anything, except that to the people who are watching it, this becomes the social interpretation of things. And so when a TikToker with more followers than I have gets on TikTok and says that anybody who is not mentally ill in a capitalist society is a fascist, my head kind of goes, wait, what? I had to listen to that guy, I don't know, 4 or 5 times, Rod, and I kept running it back going, what the hell is he saying? And the nearest I can tell is that what he's saying is that if you're not mentally ill, it's because you're a fascist. But a fascist is someone who is, as the 2023 definition says, exalting nation and race above the individual, stands for centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader, severe economic and social regimentation, and forcible suppression of opposition. The obvious question, especially when you go with the Rob Reiner tweet and all this, is, do you want democracy or fascism? The question starts percolating in your head. Does he actually believe that Biden represents democracy? Is he absolutely certain that Trump is a fascist? Because, as I said, the definition has changed, at least on the surface anyway, which makes me wonder if these people are really paying attention to what they're saying. And the answer is no, and of course they don't want to, so what difference does it make? All this kind of change in my head and these questions about freedom of speech and things like that have been percolating. Here in my neck of the woods, we've had a controversy, as much of the nation has, as we have high school students who wore T-shirts to high school on the last days of the school year that said that there are only 2 genders. That's all the shirt said. There are only 2 genders. And this, of course, has generated a major brouhaha. In fact, the Kitsap County communities, this according to our local paper, the Central Kitsap Reporter, is debating if the issue of the T-shirts is freedom of speech and religion or is it hate speech against the LGBTQIA plus community? Because you see, it can't be anything else. It's either freedom of speech or it's hate speech, without ever really grasping the fact that hate speech is still free speech. There's a missing element there. Remember that the definition, social regimentation and forcible suppression of opposition. Were the people who were wearing the t-shirts forcing anybody else to shut up? Or were the people who are saying, you can't wear that, telling people to shut up? Which is the actual fascism becomes the question. One of the respondents, one of the people who was there, said this latest tsunami of hate around gender identity and also the celebration of LGBTQIS whatever community is something that I simply refuse to allow to continue without speaking out in support of all people, she said, not meaning it. This completely unfounded fear around having students express their own identities in their daily lives is based on a lack of knowledge in regarding differences and also called ignorance, she said, missing her own point. No child should have to walk into school and see a shirt that claims that they either do or do not exist and that they are wrong. I can agree to disagree on many things. I cannot agree to disagree on hate, unquote. Now, again, I go back to that 2023 definition. Let's see. Exalt nation and race above individual. Does that sound like libertarianism? Stands for centralized autocratic government, using the power and force of government to make you think and act a certain way, headed by dictatorial leaders, severe economic and social regimentation. Social regimentation. You will not wear that shirt. And forcible suppression of opposition. I will not agree to disagree on this. And in fact, I love the phrase about it's completely unfounded fear about having students express their own identities in their daily lives is based on a lack of knowledge. She doesn't know anything about these kids that are wearing the shirts that say there are only two genders, not generals. Well, there might be two generals. Who knows? This Rob Reiner tweet has me, I don't know, concerned. Because, again, we're talking about this idea that we want democracy or do we want fascism? Fascism, of course, being leftist dog whistle for Nazis. Because you see Donald Trump as a Nazi. And if you follow Donald Trump, then you are a Nazi too. You are a fascist. But when you look at their own definition, you start saying to yourself, wait a minute, who's for social regimentation? Who is for this control? Who is for all of these things? I am for free speech. If you want to wear a t-shirt that says there's only two genders, have at it. You want to wear a t-shirt that says there are 62 genders, have at it. That's what free speech is about. But when that's forcibly suppressed because I'm in opposition, well, that's the damn definition that you gave me of fascism. So, which is the actual fascist? And I guess the question depends on whether or not this is 1988 or 2023.